Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Why am I singing? I'm singing because I just want to show you my voice is coming back. Like, oh, you're giving class? Don't give class. Rest your voice. It's coming back. I'm doing other things. So here we are. I can talk a little bit. You can tell I sound better. I don't know if I look better, but I can talk a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. How much I can talk. I have my ginger and my hot tea, so we're all set. And I'm not going to sing anymore because I think singing is probably taxing my voice. But I want to tell a story. I won't mention the devotee's name. But I think it's a great story, great way to talk about the topic of Maya. Oh, let me turn this light off, excuse me. So, let me make this light lower. Oh, so many problems. So, this devotee wrote me, yesterday was Kadasi here, this part of the world, and he decided he would fast. I think he said he'll just eat fruit. And he said, I had a hard time fasting. The whole day I was meditating on cookies. That was kind of funny, but the truth is funny. So I was thinking about this, and sometimes you're not always sure what is Maya. You know, we could ask the question, well, what is Maya? Well, sometimes it's obvious. Prabhupada says, do this, don't do that, and if you disobey, that's Maya. But other times, you know, it's not always black and white. You know, well, fasting is not Maya. Fasting on Ekadasi, that's not Maya. Yeah, but for him it was. He ended up meditating on cookies. You should not meditate on grains on Ekadasi, unless you were meditating on almond cookies. My wife makes almond cookies with almond flour. You wouldn't even know there's no grains in them. But he probably was not meditating on almond cookies. Not a good thing to do on Ekadasi. So then I started thinking, well, how do you know what is Maya and what isn't? It's just while I'm talking, I'm bringing up the document because I was doing something before class, and up to 2 minutes before class, I was doing something. Okay. Now I just have to find where we left off. So, if we ask the question, how do you know what is Maya? You have to look at the consequences of what you're doing. And say, is by doing this, I'm coming closer to Krishna, or I'm coming further away. Of course, you can't artificially do something which is obviously not Krishna conscious and say, it's making me Krishna conscious. You know, you can't do something sinful and say, but it actually helps me get frustrated, you know. If I just have a few beers, you know, on New Year's, I won't drink for the rest of the year. That's not a recommended process. But sometimes I've seen devotees get confused about what is Maya. And I don't know if you know, but there's a Grihastha Vision Team in America. A Grihastha Vision Team is a group of Prabhupada disciples who decided they needed to do something to help Grihasthas because they saw all the problems. And they were counselors, and they were also marriage counselors, some of them. Some of them were doing it professionally. Some of them had just studied it and started teaching devotees. And then they wrote this book that had such a beautiful name. It said, Strengthening the Bonds That Free Us. What does that mean? Strengthening the bonds that free us. Well, Shastra often talks about Grihastha life as a bondage. But then they saw that, I once told you, I don't know, this is so It's so sad, funny, makes me angry at the same time. The 80s, there was a sannyasi, I would say young sannyasi, because we were all young in the 80s. And his philosophy was, he would marry, he wasn't a guru then, I think he was GBC, and he would marry, the way he would decide who should marry who was not based on compatibility, it was based on incompatibility. And he would try to find two people who were incompatible. And his idea was that if you suffer, you become detached. So if I can find an incompatible couple, their life together will be so difficult, miserable perhaps, not perhaps, probably, or just so unhappy that they'll just completely detach from the opposite sex. That was his idea. And it, as you could imagine, it backfired. It's just that the marriage didn't work, and 2 years later, they either left Krishna consciousness or they left to look for another husband. So the name of this book is kind of like the opposite of that. Okay, let's strengthen the bond. Oh, the bond between male and female, strengthen it. Because when that bond is good, then it actually frees you. It's interesting, isn't it? We think, no, if you get frustrated, it'll free you. But when you actually look at it, for most things, it's kind of like you have to go through it in a way where it doesn't destroy you, and where a way it fulfills you, or fulfills the need that you have in a Krishna conscious way, and then eventually it'll detach you because you're satiated. So then, we could use this example, and you could say, well, some brahmachari wants to get married, and the other brahmacharis could say, Prabhu, you're entering, grihastha life, you're going to be working like an ass, you're not going to be preaching, you're going to be like changing diapers and, stressed out about money and, all the wonderful things that only devotees would say when someone wants to get married. You can imagine what non-devotees would think if they heard us talk like that. Think, what is wrong with these people? That's what they tell some young man when he wants to get married, that his life's going to be hell personified, and his wife's going to manifest as a witch. What kind of crazy people are these? Isn't it? Hare Krishna. Yeah. So, and so the question is, well, if we use this as an example, is it Maya or is it not Maya? And the only way ultimately to answer the question is, well, did it bring you closer to Krishna or did it keep you further away from Krishna? Like my daughter, she's very smart and she's very interested in what's going on in ISKCON. So we have all these conversations about like social issues in ISKCON, pretty deep conversations. So, that's not Maya. She asks me questions about things that I've discussed with senior devotees all the time. Why this and why that? And if this is this, why that? So we have these deep discussions. My wife is, she has deities. She does deity worship. We have like 4 sets of deities, and she listens to lectures about Krishna Lila and all kinds of esoteric things, and she's telling me all these amazing things she reads. That's not Maya, right? So is Grihastha life Maya? Well, it depends how you set it up. It depends what you do. So I think that's the best answer. Or not the only answer, but when you're trying to figure out, should I do this? Is it Maya? Should I do that? Is it Maya? Well, what isn't always so clear until you start looking at, well, what would be the effect of doing that? Just like this devotee thought, well, fasting, that's fasting on Ekadasi. What's better than that? What's more Krishna conscious than that? And he ends up meditating on cookies instead of Krishna. So I guess fasting for him was Maya, right? And eating prasadam would have been better, not Maya, because it would have helped him. So that's just something I wanted to share with you today. Is that okay? Anyone have an example of this? Something that kind of doesn't look like Krishna consciousness, that if it's engaged properly, it becomes Krishna conscious, and vice versa, something that looks Krishna conscious, but if not utilized properly, is not? You have an example, anybody? For some reason, I can't think of any other examples. Well, I can think of an example from my own life. I had this unfortunate experience. I think the whole experience was kind of unfortunate. But anyway, Krishna gave me a way to support myself many years ago. Yeah, it was kind of, it was like my wife and I had this idea of buying things in India and selling in America, because we were living in India, going back and forth. And so it developed into a business. And we found that, actually, women like jewelry. You probably know that. They'll buy all kinds of jewelry they don't need, just stay in fashion. So we had a business selling jewelry. And I remember its circumstances were such. This is so depressing. It was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's either appearance or disappearance day, probably his appearance day. And I had to do a show that day. And it was like, inauspicious. But, needed the money, booked the show. If you don't show up the next year, they won't let you come. So I was there, and I prayed to him. I said, here I am, trying to remember you, and for the next 8 hours today and tomorrow, I'm going to be surrounded by women who just want to buy jewelry, and I'm not going to be hearing about Krishna for 8 hours, and I'm going to be hearing, oh, this looks good, or how do I look? I'm just like keeping people in the bodily conception. It was a very unconducive situation. And I prayed to him. I said, please help me in this situation. Think of you, be Krishna conscious, be sober, be detached, and so forth. It was an amazing day. It was an amazing day. I felt like a shift in my consciousness, just totally shifted. And I was in such a good state of consciousness in such a bad environment. It was just amazing. It's like I'd become transcendental. And it happened again another time. I was doing another show, and this was like, after doing this business for a long time, I started thinking, this is not really good, I spend, the whole day, like almost every weekend, the whole day, surrounded by women. Sometimes there are like 20 women around the table, at a time. It's like, this is not really the ideal thing for me to do. Krishna, how am I going to deal with this? And Krishna said, well, they're all women, are all mother. Just see them as mother. Deal with them like mother. And that's what I did. And it was like, that day was like amazing. Just surrounded by me. It's so nice to be surrounded by your mother all day, isn't it? What to speak of hundreds of mothers. What a day that is, So much love and affection from all your mothers. So that's what I was feeling. I was feeling, it's just women are mother. They're nourishing, nurturing, and I was feeling that. It was a very Krishna conscious. And I have other experiences like that. And so on the surface, you got married, now you have to make money, and you can't do it as a Brahmin now, circumstantially. And then I had to learn how to be Krishna conscious in those situations, and it helped me a lot, because when I look at the situation, I think, now there's no way to be Krishna conscious. It's the wrong environment. And I had so many experiences like that. And and then sometimes I travel a lot and listen to like a zillion lectures. I remember once I drove. I had to drive somewhere. We drove all day. Not we, me and Krishna, me and Super Soul, yeah. It was like 17-hour drive. And I listened to Prabhupada's morning walks nonstop. And like when I got to where I was going, I was like, wow, I just went on like, 35 morning walks with Prabhupada today. It was amazing, So I would say my suggestion is like whenever you're in a situation you think, well, this is not really Krishna conscious. And there are situations definitely that are not Krishna conscious, and there's not a whole lot you can do. You can adjust as best you can. But there are situations where you can adjust more. And you can actually turn something negative into something positive. And then instead of it just saying, it's Maya, like stamp it, this is Maya. It just is. Well, it's Maya, all right, maybe it is, but can you make it Krishna? And there's a conversation where a devotee was telling Prabhupada, I forget the context, but his statement was, it's Maya. We can't do this, or we can't engage this because it's Maya. And Prabhupada was saying, everything is Maya, but you have to take that Maya and use it for Krishna. So that's the point. Is this Maya? Well, maybe. I mean, if you just do nothing with it, and you can't use it in service, and you can't use it in a way that it's going to help you become Krishna conscious. Yeah, then it is Maya. But the point is it Maya, or was it your inability to use it? And sometimes the answer is the former, and sometimes the answer is the latter. Yeah, this glass of beer is Maya. However you drink it. And you say, no, but Prabhupada said, if you drink wine and think the liquid is Krishna, you'll become a sadhu. Yeah, but that's not for us. Prabhupada said that, yeah. Okay, this wine is Krishna. I can smell it. Okay, that's Krishna. What an awful smell. I don't think Krishna smells that bad. But if I drink it, that's Maya. I'm breaking the principles that I vowed that I wouldn't break. So, obviously some things cannot be used. Although, you can probably distribute more books to drunk people than sober people. So, it can be used indirectly. Yeah, drink some more wine. It's good for you. Yeah, give it. And they give a donation, and you go, hey, can you give another $100? And they're drunk. I'm like, okay. I distributed books, yeah. I always liked the drunk people. Not that I would encourage them. That's not my service to encourage them to drink. I would encourage them not to drink. But the fact that they're already drunk did help book distribution. So, yeah, even alcohol can be engaged in Krishna service. There's a festival, I don't know if they have this anymore, festivals. It's on a street called Westheimer in Houston, Texas, and they have this festival. It's a crazy festival. And it's one of those like beer drinking festivals. Well, it wasn't a beer drinking festival like a German festival. No offense to Germans, but we have German festivals in America. It's like beer is like everything. That's a festival. This is the festival where there's a lot of beer. And what I noticed was that around 4 p.m., the beer was acting. They'd get there like 11, 12, 1 o'clock. And by 4, and how did I know? Because we'd have, with our kirtans, 30, 40 people dancing and chanting with us. And I'm like, yes, beer is good for Harinam Sankirtan. People chant Hare Krishna more when they drink beer. And I was half joking, but it's true. These people would never chant and dance with us. Now they're drunk or slightly drunk, and they're Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And it's like, oh, do we encourage beer drinking? So indirectly, I mean, you could say just as a philosophical discussion, we wouldn't encourage people to drink beer. We'd encourage them to drink cinnamon tea like I'm drinking. But it's a fact the beer actually inspired them, is that the right word, to chant Hare Krishna. It did something. It opened them up, right? So you could even say beer is not Maya in some situations. A lot of devotees, before they became devotees, took LSD, took psychedelics, and they'll say, yeah, it was those psychedelics that opened me up to Krishna. Well, okay, whatever. I'm not going to recommend all of you take some psychedelics. It'll inspire your bhakti. But it inspired theirs. So even even the negative can be the positive. So, we don't go out and break principles in the name of, but it's going to help my Krishna consciousness. But as the sake of philosophical discussion, it's true. Sometimes the negative does. But in our lives as devotees, we don't just want to look at something negative or positive, and we don't want to make a judgment on it in a vacuum. That's what I want to say. We don't want to make a judgment in a vacuum. We want to make a judgment based on, is this helping me become Krishna conscious? And there was one guru, he's very, very intelligent, beyond intelligent. And there was a woman who I don't think she wanted to have children. And he said to her something really funny. I thought it was funny, but it's true. He said to her, "You're very selfish. And the only way I can see that you are going to overcome this selfishness is you need to have a child, because the child will occupy you. And you'll have to give yourself totally to that child." And it was true. Because once you have a child, you can't be selfish, because they demand all your attention, at least for so many years. And they still demand attention, maybe not as much as the first few years, but children are demanding, believe me. And so someone might say, I have a child, and it's hard to chant, your rounds are horrible, this, that, and the next thing. And some women can't even finish their rounds after they give birth, and, then they had service they can't do because they're taking care of their kids. And this guru made his assessment. Oh, you need to have children because you'll never overcome your selfishness. And this selfishness is holding you back from Krishna consciousness. Interesting. Now I have a comment or a question. Is this not a cheating propensity, taking advantage of people who are high on alcohol? No, it's engaging them. How could you cheat them? By giving them a book, Prabhupada's book. If you didn't give them a book, you'd be cheating them. Oh, he's drunk, don't give him a book. And then I'd be cheating him. He's drunk, I'll give him 5 books. When he's sober, he may not know what happened, but there the books are in his house. He won't even remember how he got them. But I just engaged him in devotional service. What higher service can you do than give someone Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada was speaking to people. Practically everyone he was speaking to was experimenting with drugs. And he told them, you don't need drugs. But it was drugs which made them the way they were, so open to mysticism, meditation. The whole hippie movement was fostered, empowered by drugs. The interest in yoga somehow or other was all empowered by, the realizations and visions people had on drugs. Of course, when we became devotees, we were told, don't take them, you don't need them. But, we could see the benefit. People who would experimented with drugs were often very open. I think I told that story. I don't know, Vijay Lakshmi, if you heard this story. So, I don't know the exact year. It probably was 1968. And so the hippie movement, the center of the hippie movement was Greenwich Village, or Lower East Side of New York, and San Francisco. And I think it was more intense in San Francisco, in a place called Haight-Ashbury, which was, famous. There are 2 streets. One is Haight, one is Ashbury. And in, 4 or 5 blocks in any direction, it was only hippies. That was the epicenter of the hippie movement. And Malati had gone to a store, an import store, and she had found a little Jagannath deity, and she brought it, and she showed it to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada bowed down when he saw the deity. He goes, oh, Jagannath has come. And he said, well, were there other deities there? And she said, yeah, there were 2 others. And so he said, can you bring them? Can you get them? She said, of course. So she brought Subhadra and Balaram. And then Prabhupada asked, is there anyone who can carve these deities? So Prabhupada thought, well, they've come to San Francisco. And Shyamasundar, Maladi's husband at the time, said, yeah, I can carve them. So they carved them. San Francisco became New Jagannath Puri. That was the first place that we held Rath Yatra. I think the first one was 1967, just on a truck. And then, that became for many years, the only place in ISKCON that had Rath Yatra was San Francisco. Big, huge Rath Yatras. 10,000 hippies dancing. I mean, like everybody dancing. Just crazy. And so these hippies would come, who had been experimenting with drugs and just like opening their minds to all kinds of things. And they'd come and they'd see these quite large Jagannath deities. And, if you talk about idols to the Western mind, they look like idols. Or like, we'd see in Africa or India totem poles with strange faces. And even Prabhupada once said that, I read. He said, oh, Lord Jagannath's not very beautiful. It's like a deity and the head's like this and big eyes and like, what is this? But it's interesting because the hippies were, experimenting with a lot of far out things, or seeing a lot of, not as experimenting, but seeing a lot of far out things under the influence of psychedelics. When they come to the temple, they say, who is that? We'd say, that's God. They say, oh, okay. There's like completely open, My wife told me yesterday there was a class, not yesterday, but she was listening to a class yesterday, and the devotee was saying Krishna had 16,100 wives, and some person who I guess knew nothing about this said, oh my God! She just, went like, what a shock, So it was something like that, like seeing the deity like that. Seeing the deity like that, like Krishna, oh my God. But it wasn't, oh my God, this can't be. It was like, oh, cool, that's God, cool. The LSD was still flowing in their head like they're open to anything. God can come in wood, yeah, oh, cool, all right. So it actually helped. But Prabhupada never condoned taking drugs. He said you don't need it. So the point was that if people are already doing something and we can use what they're doing to help them stop doing it. Or like the example Prabhupada gave, the policeman, he breaks the law. He breaks the speed limit. What do you call that when you break the speed limit? He's speeding over the limit. Why? Because he has to catch someone else who's breaking the law. So, that was a bad example. That example is for something else. No. Forget that example. Erase it. It's a wrong example. But if you can engage somebody in what they're doing, like say somebody's worshiping Shiva, and you go, you should put a picture of Krishna there, and when you offer your incense and lamb to Shiva, you can offer to Krishna also. Something like that. And they go, okay. Yeah, if you worship Krishna, he'll bless you. Your life will be better. Okay. So it's something like that. We don't want to encourage the worship of demigods, but we could add it. So, Hadi is saying, amazing story how you managed drunkards in service. Great tactics. I like to go with those, and where devotees usually don't go. Yeah. Like some devotees really love to preach in the prisons. It's like, should we preach in the prisons? Yeah, you have a captive audience. That's a joke. Yeah. Maybe a joke used too much, but they're in a very good position, many of them, to be open. What is a practical way to differentiate what cannot be turned into Krishna, for example, while preaching? But also in jobs, family, or karmi friends. Well, the answer is relative, Nadia, because maybe you can turn it into Krishna, but maybe another devotee can't, or vice versa. They can and you can't. So it's not always absolute. You may not see how to turn it into Krishna, or you may try to turn it into Krishna, but you get your hands burnt because it's a hot fire. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there are some devotees who never became full-time devotees. who never really surrendered. But they made many, many devotees. How did they do it? They were young, attractive men, and they made many, many women devotees. They kind of let the women get attracted to them, and they said, well, you should become Krishna conscious. That's what you should do. And they never had a relationship with a woman. Could everybody do that? No. Did some of them manage to do it without getting burnt? Some, yeah, they did, somehow or other. They wanted to make them devotees so much more than they wanted to enjoy them. But, they liked women, and that's how they dovetailed their propensity. Sounds crazy, right? Don't try this at home, guys. It may not work for you, but it worked for some. They were able to do that. Or some men who felt compassion for women, who wanted to help women, had Sankirtan parties of all women, and they took care of them. And some men did an excellent job, and the women were really well taken care of, and the women were happy. And some men did a horrible job and exploited the women. So eventually the movement decided it's probably better the women take care of the women, at least it's safer. And in some cases, maybe the men did a better job, but just to be safe. So, you have to evaluate by the individual. And in a purport, I believe it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada made an important point. He said, sometimes you'll read about Nityananda, how Nityananda would save Jaga and Madai, or how the great acharyas save people in difficult situations. Or sometimes we hear that Lord Nityananda is in the bar, but he doesn't go for drinking, he goes for preaching. And then Prabhupada made an important point. He said, you have to evaluate your own strength. So don't try to imitate what Nityananda Prabhu did. If you don't have the strength to do it, you may become burnt trying to do what he did. So you have to evaluate your strength, your situation. Like maybe we should go to a rave. All night people are like, well, I don't know. I've never been to one. Whatever they're doing, drugged out and dancing like crazy. And so that's a great place to preach Krishna consciousness. But if you grew up going to raves, it may not be a good place for you because you may become attracted. Whereas if you never did, you'd probably go there and say, this is hell. I don't even like this, but the people are open, so I'll do it. So then you're able to engage it in Krishna consciousness because it doesn't bother you. So you have to see, right? You want to be a yoga teacher. Yoga is a good way to attract people. But 85% are women. So if you're a man yoga teacher, you have to be able to do that, have the right consciousness, and then you'll be able to make a lot of devotees, help a lot of people. But if you can't, for you, then it becomes Maya. So you have to know yourself, Nadia. You have to know your weaknesses. Have you ever said, not just Nadia, but any of you, have you ever said, I can't do that because I don't trust myself? You ever said that? I can't go into that situation because I don't trust myself. If I'm in that situation, I think I will give in. I can't go in that store. I'll spend too much money. They have such nice things. I'm not going in. I'll buy things I don't need. I can't go in that sari shop. They have the best saris in India. They're so expensive. And I just love saris. Even though I have 463 saris, I could buy like 10 more right now. I'm not going in that store because, if I go in, I'll be like, 50,000 rupees poorer. If I just stay on the street, that's like, I just saved 50,000 rupees. So sometimes we're like that, right? Whereas, let's say, another devotee says, let's go in that store. We could get some saris for the deities. They have the best saris in India. This would be like the ultimate cloth for the deities. So you go in there like, no problem. You just see, oh, it's for the deities. Excuse me. You just see, well, this is for the deities, no problem. Right? So if you tell yourself, I can't go there, I don't trust myself, I would say, well, if you can't trust yourself, don't do it. And I would say, work on trusting yourself. Work on self-compassion so that you won't do anything which is harmful for yourself. But it's wise words. Stay away from the halava if you're addicted to it. Right? Does that answer your question? It's hard. I'm just answering in a general way. It's hard to be specific. Practical way to differentiate what cannot be turned into Krishna. Yeah, what's going to turn you into Maya, basically. For example, preaching is a family. I think it's the same principle. I would, Nadia, I would start with a premise that you can turn anything into a Krishna consciousness. And then try. And if you can't, then you can say, well, not this one, not this situation I can't, but that one I could. So you'll have to see. At least that's how I look at it. I'm like, okay, how can we make this Krishna conscious? That's where I would start. Unless you are absolutely sure you can't, then don't try. You waste time. But how could we make this situation Krishna conscious? Or, sometimes you want to learn something and say, I think this will help the devotees, or I think this information is necessary for our movement. So you study something. And usually when devotees do that, they'll discover all kinds of useful information that's relevant in some way to the leadership, management, preaching, or personal development of devotees. So that's fine. You study it and you share it, and devotees say, oh, this really helped. It's really helpful. Yesterday I read a statement by I think it was the North American GBC about abuse in marriage. It's a whole beautiful document about the signs of abuse and what to do. It was so helpful. Obviously compiled after studying the issue deeply, not written from scratch, but borrowing from experts. But it's such a useful document, because sometimes people are being abused, they don't even know it, they don't know the symptoms, it just lays everything out. What to do, what are the stages you go through, what are the damages that you will experience if you don't solve this, and like that. So, if you see something and you think, this is really valuable, this could be used, really helpful for devotees, then like I said, you don't see it in a vacuum. It's like in a vacuum, it's not Maya and it's not Krishna. It's just neutral, and then you use it. As far as your job, with your job you get money. With your money, you have a place to live. And with your money, Nadia, you can buy a nice microphone and make recordings, which you like to do. And you can buy software you need to do service and so many things. So if you see that this job is actually facilitating my service, then the job is good. It's Krishna conscious, because the result of the job is I get money, and with that money, I have a place to live, close to where, food to eat, and a little extra money that I can engage in service. So, sometimes you just have to dissect things down so you can see the Krishna in there. Because sometimes, and then you give some donation. You do give some donation. They're doing Food for Life in Argentina and Buenos Aires, and you give some donation. So because I worked, I could give donation for this project or whatever project. So then you tie it all together and go, oh yeah, so this job is Krishna conscious because it's supporting a devotee, myself. I can support other devotees, and it's supporting my service. So yeah, sometimes you have to connect the dots. Otherwise, think, I'm just working, it's just Maya, there's no devotees here, and this company is just making money so the CEO can drive a Jaguar. That may be true, but still, it's facilitating your service. So if you see it that way, it's better. Is that okay? Family, friends. And she said, karmi friends. Karmi, the karmis. The karmis are like dangerous, right? You have friends who are karmis? Prabhu, oh my God, what's wrong with you? When we were young, we used the word karmi like COVID-19. Or karmi, stay away. You'll get contaminated, Prabhu. You will become like the people you associate with. So if you have friends who aren't devotees, maybe they have some redeeming qualities that you lack, and you get something from that friendship. Or maybe they're very philosophical or whatever, and it actually helps you. Or they're very stable people, and you need to be around stable people. And all your devotee friends are like all, the most unstable people you ever met, which I'm not saying they are, but it sometimes could be. So this is an extreme example, and this kind of is out of the box, But you say, but I have friends that are like really stable. My devotee friends, and they're not all stable. So I like these people; they help me. Okay, does it actually help you? Is it wearing off in a good way? Fine, if it's wearing off in a good way. Oh yeah, I learned. They're very responsible. They're very good parents. I like to see that. I want to be a parent. I can learn from them. Fine. Are you picking up any bad habits? Well, they actually go out and drink on the weekends, and they invite me, and blah, blah. Okay, so, you have to evaluate everything on the basis of how it affects you and your level of strength or weakness, and say, I like the people that have good qualities, but if I associate with them, I pick up on all the other stuff. I was working on a project with someone, so we're working closely. It wasn't a devotee, he was another spiritualist, and so, so I could see by, he really liked me. He liked hanging out with me. He liked my association. I liked him. So we spent a fair amount of time together over maybe 4 or 5 days working on the recording. And so naturally, when you're with another person, just who they are wears off on you. You start feeling a bit what they're feeling. So then you have to evaluate, is that good or is it bad? Is it helping you or is it harming you? Hopefully your association's helping them. And you might say, well, I like to give my karmi, my COVID-19 friends who have the disease of being karmis, and why don't we just say my non-devotee friends, my friends who don't realize, my devotee friends who don't realize they're devotees. Yeah, that's what they are. I have devotee friends, they just don't realize they're devotees yet. If by that friendship, they're becoming devotees, and you're not becoming a non-devotee, that's good. Or, as I said, you're gaining something from them. That's good. Why not? But if not, if you're gaining something bad, that friendship now it becomes Maya. Pretty simple, right? Okay, I think that answers the question. Nadia says, I live in a poor neighborhood. And when we have Harinams here, all the drunkards join. And there's no shortage of drunkards in your country. She's in Siberia. All the drunkards join the Harinam. And some of them even fall down in front of us and start praying. This is quite an unusual experience. Yeah, more vodka. We should do a vodka distribution program. We'll get more people chanting. It's I think we have to understand, and probably you all understand, that as you study Shastra and its application in Kali Yuga, you see a million contradictions. Like, women are less intelligent. Okay. And Prabhupada so many times said, my female disciples are most intelligent. There's a lot of really unintelligent men out there, aren't there? Definitely. And there's a lot of intelligent men. There are a lot of intelligent women, renounced women, sense-controlled women, and a lot of men who are just like mush, can't control themselves. Just a bag of emotions out of control. It's not supposed to be like that. It's Kali Yuga, right? So sometimes we get in these quandaries, It seems like Maya is actually helping people. So they're going to drink anyway. But if drinking is helping them come closer to Krishna, we can not encourage the drinking, but we can use that. It's their blessing. I was on the first book distribution traveling party that distributed big books. And on that party, the first book we distributed was to a drunkard. And he was the only one on the street. It was it was 8 o'clock at night in the middle of a Canadian winter. And, unless you've been drinking a ton, you wouldn't stay warm. He was the only one out there, and he took a book, and we were ecstatic. Thank you, drunkard, for being there. It really helped us. It gave us confidence we could distribute these Krishna books to anybody, drunk or not. What can we say, It's just a fact. It's not a problem to have no money anyway. So there isn't the issue of buying things. Yeah, one of the great fortunes of having no money is you can't buy anything, right? So then, no Maya there in that story. You forgot to answer Edie's question. Okay, let's go up. Up, up. There it is. The devotees make book distribution around the football games. People drink and receive the book. Only few squares after we find the book on the floor. Is it more the benefit for the drunk person or offense? Well, this question was asked to Prabhupada because we were in all the airports around the world. You'd always find books lying around, just left. People weren't interested. Sometimes you'd find them in the trash can. Not because people were offensive, but just decided, well, I don't want the book, so I'll dispose of it. And they told Prabhupada. It kind of, the mood was like, well, should we be distributing these books to all these people? They're like throwing them away. Prabhupada said, it's Kali Yuga. They're throwing away their babies. What do you expect? So, what I understood from that, or what I read into that, is like, it's Kali Yuga. You have to, we're preaching in Kali Yuga, so we can't say, okay, you don't get a book because you look like you're going to throw it away, or you had one too many beers. So, obviously if someone's very drunk, you can't make sense to them. But Prabhupada's mood was, just give Krishna consciousness. Someone will take to it. You don't know who. It's like book distribution is a little bit like Las Vegas. You don't know when you hit the jackpot. You give the book out, and that could be the jackpot. Or that book could be given to another person who becomes the jackpot. You don't know. So you just give it out. Prabhupada was willing to take that chance. And I don't think he took it as an offense, because he said that in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, you can't make an offense. So just the effort to try to help somebody, it's not an offense. Even though they make the offense and it looks like, well, you were an accomplice in that offense because you gave them the book. I would say, if someone's saying, oh, let me just give you a donation, I won't read the book. And you go, no, take the book. You're like, no, I won't read it. I'll just leave it here if you don't have to give it. And then you insist, maybe then, that was a bad decision. Because they're telling you they're just going to leave it here. So anyway, that's what Prabhupada said. Okay. If one does not become a devotee with the right motive, then their case will be temporary and they will opt out of Krishna consciousness. Isn't that true? Not necessarily. Because, you could say, how many people become devotees with the right motive? And you'll probably say, most have mixed motives. I became a devotee for several reasons. I was convinced of the philosophy. I had an amazing experience with the holy name. And I basically thought, I don't want to work, and this is the way out of work. I want to drop out of college. This is the way out. And I just want to be happy, and this is the way to be happy. So my motives weren't pure. And I didn't know anything about pure motives in those days. But when I moved in the temple, then I learned about pure motives. Like, oh, I'm supposed to do this because Krishna wants me to do it. I'm supposed to do this because this is what Prabhupada has asked, or this is the right thing. So I gradually learned. So it's not true if they come for the wrong reason, they'll stay with the wrong reason and then leave because of the wrong reason. If they have the association of pure devotees and they're properly guided, then they will purify. And that's why Shastra says, sarva kama, moksha kama. You have all desires. Akama, you have no desire. You want to be liberated. Moksha kama. Whatever you want, come to Krishna. And then once you're in the door, we can work with you. So it's like, okay, I want to stay high. Okay, come in, chant Hare Krishna, you'll get high. It's the only reason I'm here at the temple is to get high. Fine, just come and chant. So what happens when they chant? They get purified. They get high, they're happy, they hang out with devotees. What happens when you hang out with devotees? You become a devotee. What happens when you hang out with pure devotees? You become a pure devotee. So, Vijaya Lakshmi, unless that person is resistant, it's like, no, I don't want to be a pure devotee. I want to, I just want to stay high on the holy name. They'll get purified. It's just a fact. So that's our philosophy. If that's buzzing, let me know. I just plugged it in. Occasionally when we plug in the phone, the power, it starts buzzing. Anyway, if it's buzzing, there's nothing I can do because the phone's going to die. Well, maybe something else I can do. So, there are many, many lectures. Prabhupada said, you do not have to shave your head. You do not have to wear a dhoti. Just come, chant, dance, take prasadam, and if you like, here we have some books, we have philosophy. He never said you have to come with a pure motive, because he knew, and Krishna knows, and Shastra knows, that however you come, you're coming into a pure environment, and if you stay in that environment, you'll get purified. So sometimes we may throw some bait out, chant Hare Krishna will solve your problems, chant Hare Krishna will be free from anxiety, chant Hare Krishna this or that, and someone might say, Prabhu, that's not really in Shastra, that chant Hare Krishna, or you're alluring people with material benefit. The devotees say, I know, but if they chant, they're going to become pure devotees. That's the consequence. If they associate with the pure, they'll become pure. That's the idea. So, this is how it works. I mean, if you want to dissect how it works in helping someone become Krishna conscious, you can say it's the holy name, you can say it's hearing and chanting and so forth, which is, of course, true. But really, the process is to get people to come and associate, be with devotees. And then once they're with devotees, the association purifies them. And when they're with devotees, they hear about Krishna, they hear the philosophy, they learn to chant. So the main thing is just get people into the association. And when they're in the association, they'll learn the philosophy. When they're chanting Hare Krishna, the desire to be pure will manifest. And they'll be able to better understand that their desires need to be purified. So that's the idea. Most people come with material motive, get free from some kind of suffering. Were you suffering before you were a devotee? Did you want to get free from that suffering? Is that part of the reason you became Krishna conscious? Probably. It's just natural for a conditioned soul. So Nadia says, I actually see the Krishna in this job, or at least I'm trying to, like you said, to make donations and get equipment to serve. Yeah, so then it's a natural connection. Your job is helping your service, so it's Krishna conscious. I mean, you may not be Krishna conscious at work, but if you put all the dots together, you could say my work is Krishna conscious. And you can practice being more Krishna conscious. I think it's okay to abandon those friends, quote, karmi friends, haha. We're also karmis, actually, just trying to be more Krishna conscious. Still a karmi. Be friends with them without taking their influence, their bad influence. My devotee friends don't realize they are Krishna's eternal servants, exactly. And they're her non-devotee friends. I see them like that. Maybe I used the K word wrong. I can tell you something that has helped me a lot. When I used to distribute books, when I would look at people, I would think, well, here's a devotee, they just don't know it. And that's how I deal with them. Like, here, check this out. Like I'm not talking to someone who's an alien from another planet. Like I'm talking to someone who's a devotee that just forgot. So I kind of treat them like devotees. You know what I mean? Like, we're not the body, right? You know, you heard that before, yeah. You know, spirit, soul. I go, yeah. You know, meditation, chanting, purification. I talk to them like they already knew it. It was really interesting. They responded much better because I treated them like they were devotees, just they didn't know it. And I always found that was the easiest way to deal with people. Or when I preach to an audience of people, I'm looking at them and I'm looking at all these people and I'm thinking, you're all devotees. You're like this far away from realizing that you're devotees. It's just something has to be said or done, and then you'll realize it. And I think that's a beautiful way of dealing with everyone. Billy Lynn says, I live isolated, so I don't have many physical world friends. And I have a handful of people that I interact with when I'm able, devotees. I feel like I should. Like I only need, I can't say where this. Another book by Billy Lynn. She writes books in her comments. I'm trying to find where we left it. I only really need friends who are... I also really love my friends who are non-devotees, but I think it's like the proportion of what you consume. If I consume more materialism, I will become more of a materialist. Yeah. Even if I have a little of spiritual activity. So I'm conscious if I'm consuming more spiritual world activities. Yes. Yes. Anyway, it's a fact. Undeniably, we're influenced by association. Whether you like it or not, we're influenced by association. Could be good, could be bad, but we're influenced. Okay. I see all these messages from Nadia that seem to be the same message over and over again. Okay, so now, an hour later after we started, we could actually read something. That was quite an introduction, wasn't it? And I hope that was of some help. So, now my next project is to find out where we left off. Does anybody, is Anuradha, are you here? Do you know where we left off? You know, as I always say, the way we find out where we left off is we just start reading where we think we left off, and if something looks familiar, we're like, oh, we already read that. I believe we're still in 1968. Oh yeah, some beautiful quote here. Mm-hmm. Wasn't it the last thing we read, or Prabhupada said he was attacked by Maya in the form of physical problems? Where do we leave off? Anuradha. Yeah, Sanatani said it's nice. She doesn't have a lot of devotees where she is. In Norway. It is nice to be where there's not a lot of devotees, because then you have closer relationships, there's less of you, and you're inspired to make more. 75, finish your business. No way! Are you serious? No. Are you serious? We read that? Not possible, is it? I want to read something. This is 6804. Okay, tell me if we read this. I want to read this, and we'll take a vote whether we read this or not before. One thing you may inform all devotees, that Maya cannot touch a pure devotee. When you find a devotee is supposed to be in difficulty, it is not the work of Maya, but it is the work of the Lord by His personal internal energy. Did we read this before? Anyone remember this? The Pandava's tribulation in so many ways, Lord Ramachandra's departure to the forest, his wife, the goddess of fortunes being kidnapped by Ravana, Lord Krishna's death being caused by the arrow of a hunter, Haridas Thakur being caned in 22 marketplaces, or, this is amazing, Lord Jesus Christ being crucified, are all acts of the Lord personally. Personally means personally Krishna did this, arranged this. We cannot always understand the intricacies of such incidents. Sometimes they are enacted to bewilder persons who are demons. Interesting. You should therefore discuss in the Ishtagosi the current reading matters from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. We should only try to understand everything from the standard of devotional service. It is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita that anyone who is 10% engaged in the service of the Lord is transcendentally situated. And the influence of Maya has no more any action on such body. The Lord and His pure devotees are always beyond the range of Maya's action. Even though they may appear like the action of Maya, we should understand their action of Yoga Maya, or the internal potency of the Lord. Does anyone remember reading that, hearing that before, in last week or the week before? It would have been like last Monday, or it would have been last Monday, or I think we missed Tuesday and Wednesday, or it would have been last Wednesday. I don't remember reading it. So let's discuss it and try to figure. And I'm going to read from here back up and see if we get to a point where everyone says, "Oh, I remember that. We read that." Then we'll know. I just was not paying attention. So this is beautiful. When I read this, and I saw that Prabhupada included Lord Jesus being crucified as under the supervision of Yoga Maya. I had never heard that before. I thought that's really interesting. And so Prabhupada is saying here, whenever a devotee suffers, it's always under the action of Yoga Maya. It's never under the action of Maya, because a pure devotee is never controlled by Maya. And then you may question, well, why would Krishna want him to suffer, or her to suffer? And the Prabhupada gives one explanation. That sometimes to bewilder the demons. And you would think, why would Krishna do something to bewilder the demons? And it's because the demons, or the demon is an English translation of asura. And asura means ungodly. So when we say demon, we think it's someone who has horns, or someone who's invading your body and taking over, right? Some malevolent creature who's destroying you. So when Prabhupada says demon, he means ungodly. They could be nice people, doing welfare. They just don't believe in God. They're just atheistic, They could be good musicians, good actors, beautiful voices, nice people, nice parents. They just don't believe in God. So just take that into consideration when you read the word demon. It's like, oh, he's a demon. You might look at Hitler and go, he's a demon. Maybe that's apropos. But, the way the word demon is used in the English language in general is to denote some strange creature. Of course, Hitler was a strange creature, but aside from that, we just say ungodly people. So sometimes these ungodly people want to prove that Krishna is ordinary person, or that Krishna's pure devotee is ordinary person. They want to see that. And Krishna says, okay, you want to see that? I'll do it. And so when Krishna left this world, he feigned his death as being killed by a hunter. You can read that in the Bhagavatam. It appears that Krishna was killed by a hunter. And then you'll see people in India who think the Vedas are all about mythology. They'll say, and Krishna was shot in the foot by a hunter, and that's how he died. So it satisfies them. And you might think, why would Krishna do that? Why would he feed into their atheism? And yeyatamam prapadyante, because that's what they want to see. Krishna says, if that's what you want to see, I'll show it to you. You think my devotees are weak and controlled by the world just like everyone else? Okay, I'll show that vision to you. That's what you'll see. That's what you'll think, and whatever, Go on with your atheism. That's yeyatamam prapadyante. As they surrender, I reward accordingly. As they don't surrender, I also reward accordingly, according to what they want to see. So you might think, well, that sounds strange, but if you as a devotee want to see Krishna and he gives you some realization, or you get some insight, you go to Holy Dham and you get some insight that this is, Krishna was here and so forth, you feel something. If he's willing to do that to you, he's also willing to give insight to the atheist that this Sri Vrindavan Dham is just an illusion in the minds of these people here. And that's what they'll see. And the Prabhupada said, materialistic people cannot enter Vrindavan. They cannot see Vrindavan. They'll just see externally what it is. So, that's one reason. So then, the next point Prabhupada makes is you should discuss these things. Because, why do I have to discuss these things? Because if we don't discuss them, then we tend to just jump to conclusions based on our material minds and logic. Oh, the pure devotee is suffering, so that means, Maya is attacking. Not exactly. Sometimes we I have mentioned, we meaning I, have mentioned how, in a sense, important it was for me, and I think all of us ultimately, that Prabhupada's coming to America and spreading Krishna consciousness was not easy, because it set a precedent that preaching, you have to undergo difficulty in preaching. And so we followed in that footsteps, and we were willing to make similar sacrifices as Prabhupada made, and we were able to tolerate the austerity because Prabhupada tolerated it. It was an example for us. It told us that it also told us, or it magnified the greatness of Prabhupada. If, as I often said, if Prabhupada flew in first class and then was carted off in a Rolls Royce in Manhattan, to some big high-rise penthouse suite, the upper west side or Upper East Side of Manhattan. Not very glorious beginning at all, is it? So, in order to glorify Prabhupada, Krishna took everything away. And this makes such a beautiful story. You look at that Prabhupada movie, it has moved so many people. And what is so moving about it? Starting with nothing, presenting a philosophy in planting the seeds in soil where it appears it wouldn't grow, and then it does grow. And that means that's a powerful seed. The person who has that seed, that's powerful. Ordinary seed is going to grow. You're getting hippies to follow four regular principles. No ordinary person was ever able to do that. And you're willing to deal with them and their problems and live wherever you have to live, and then eventually fly around the world every year and tolerate this and that. What an example. So sometimes Krishna puts a devotee through difficulty to teach us tolerance. So then we have these examples. And I feel like it's really difficult to talk about forgiveness or tolerance or humility or any of these qualities if we don't have examples, especially modern day examples, and more contemporary examples, like in the lives of our acharyas, contemporary acharyas, of how they lived and struggled. And so you have, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a grihasta and all the struggles he went through, and still he was prodigious author, prolific author and preacher. Srila Prabhupada also, distributing, publishing back to Godhead even as a grihasta. It's like, why did Krishna arrange this? It's to teach us. But it was so difficult, and his wife was like this, and his kids like that, to teach us. Yeah, he was responsible. And still, in spite of all that, he came out more successful than the sannyasis. So you grihastas, yes, you have potential. You can also do it. Why not? He did it. In Bengali, if something is rotten, it's called kacha, like a vegetable that goes bad. And Prabhupada said in the Gaudiya Math, they used to call the grihastas kacha. Like you have paka, perfect, kacha, rotten. He said they used to call the grihastas kacha grihasta. And he said they're all surprised how this kacha grihasta came out so successful. So like Prabhupada takes his birth, and he's got, everything is just perfect, and you can tell that he's basically a empowered incarnation, and everything is arranged, and he's a guru when he's 6 years old, so it's just natural. No, he went through, for our benefit, showed us how to live. He went through all of that. Oh, that's arranged by Yogamaya. One devotee was just asking me this question. Was it? I think Aditi was asking this question. And here Prabhupada's confirming. She was asking, is this, why is this happening? Kacha in Hindi means unripe, yeah. Kacha, unripe. Yeah. I think in Bengali it might mean spoiled. Does anybody know? Kacha. It's Kacha Prabhu. Does it mean unripe, or it means spoiled? Anyway, but the way Prabhupada translated it was kind of like nasty. Kacha, nasty. Is, nasty or dirty. That was kind of the connotation. Whatever it means, that was apparently the connotation. And then, and then Prabhupada said, as a Prabhupada often said, well, you should do what I'm doing. And it's a little easier to think, okay, well, he was a grihasta and he was preaching anyway. Had 6 children he was preaching. Means unripe in Bengali too. Does it have a negative connotation, Shamanandini? Do you know? This connotation of kind of like rotten. That's what Prabhupada used, the word. He said, this rotten grihasta has become successful. Maybe they used another word. Maybe it wasn't kacha. Maybe it was another word. What's the Bengali word for rotten? They were surprised how this rotten grihasta came out successful. Prabhupada said that. Unripe or inexperienced also sometimes. Okay. Anyway, Prabhupada used the word rotten, so maybe. Anyway, that's how they saw him. And so Prabhupada's saying, they didn't even mean immature. They meant rotten grihastas. Their grihastas are all rotten. All right, immature. We'll be polite. They're immature. But as I remember, he used the word rotten. And saying, you should be like me. Do what I'm doing. And there you go. He lived as a grihasta, did it all, and preached as a grihasta, and then retired at a certain point and dedicated himself to preaching. So it is something that could be followed. So, now here Prabhupada goes on to say is, if someone is fully engaged in Krishna's service, a pure devotee, there's no Maya. It's only Yoga Maya in their life. So whatever happens, see it as Yoga Maya. The Lord and the pure devotees are always beyond the range of Maya's actions. Even though they appear like the action of Maya, we should understand their action of Yoga Maya, or the internal potency of the Lord. Yeah, Krishna's desire. Pacha is rotten. Oh, okay, so it's Pacha. Pacha grihasta. Okay, that solves the mystery has been solved, ladies and gentlemen. It's not Kacha, it's Pacha. And today, if you've learned nothing else, you have at least learned two Bengali words, Pacha, unripe, and Kacha, unripe, and Pacha, rotten, which is the opposite of unripe, right? It's beyond ripe. It's rotten. Just rotting away in grihasta ashram. Hare Krishna. Yes. Okay. So let's read that now. I'm going to go up and read the letter before this because I don't remember we read this. I'm going to ask the question again. Does anyone remember that we had read this letter before? Is Anuradha 5 years ahead of us accurate? No, she's 7 years ahead. Is that accurate? Or is she eating too many tortillas? And she lost track. The Bible mentions on several occasions that Jesus was glorified through the crucifixion, and through whom God's name was glorified. These parallels never cease to amaze me. Well, the thing is that the Christian religion doesn't have a history of so many saints, contemporaries of Jesus or before him. It basically just has him. Wherein Krishna consciousness, we have examples of so many saints, and you can see all the parallels. Oh, so we did read it before. So Satyarupa is the only one who has a good memory. Satyarupa. Satyarupa, I'm going to read the quote before this one. Let's see if we've read that one. I'm like, I don't know, maybe. There's unlimited nectar here. We just can keep going. Okay, let's read. This is 6803, March 26th. To Jadunandan. It's the letter before the one I just read. Maybe I've been eating too many tortillas. Or probably I haven't been eating enough. That's the problem. The tendency for solitude is a kind of reaction on our past material activities. But solitude is not very good for a neophyte. Maya is always trying to attack us. And as soon as she finds some opportunity, she tries to inflict her poisonous effects. I seem to kind of remember this. The best thing, therefore, is not to seek solitude in the beginning, but to remain in the midst of pure devotees, so that even there is attack of Maya, their association will protect us. If you are, however, always busy in the matter of preaching work, that is very nice. But to remain alone in a solitary place for a new man is not advisable. So, we have two things here. Maya is always ready to attack. As soon as you put your hands down, it's like a boxing match. As soon as you put your hands down, or as soon as you lose your focus, yeah, you'll get hit. And what does she attack with? Poisonous effects. What's the poison? We all know the poison. We've been poisoned many times. Yeah. So here, in this letter, I guess this devotee was living alone or circumstantially, but I would guess probably he was thinking about living alone. Some people like to be alone. It's just they're introverted. They don't like so much interaction. So probably he was asking. I mean, we don't know. That's part of the problem of the letters. You don't know what Prabhupada's replying to, but I would safely guess he wanted to be alone. And Prabhupada's saying solitude may be okay when you actually have prema or bhava. Not even okay when you have bhava. Look what happened to Bharat Maharaj. It may be okay when you have prema. But there's a verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that says, even on the stage of love of God, your bhakti is nurtured by the association of devotees. So it's not like, okay, I finally got prema, I'm finished with all you guys, I never liked you anyway. You know, like you all drive me crazy, you know, but I just hung around with you because I know if I didn't, I'd probably, you know, just fall flat. I'd go what did I say? Headline and sinker? Foot, line, and sinker for Maya. Something like that. But now that I've got prema, I don't need you guys. You just bother me, you know, with all your problems and whatever. See you later. But Shastra says, even at this stage of prema, association of devotees is still it's the root cause. It's what nourishes your bhakti. So that's the point Prabhupada's making, that you should never, there's never a point in your Krishna consciousness where you can give up the association of devotees. Now, there's another situation which we have to point out. Even if you live alone, you're living with a devotee yourself. And sometimes that can be dangerous. Isn't it? Prabhu, I'm associating with myself, and sometimes my association is not very good. Yeah, sometimes devotees feel that way. Say, I don't want to be alone. I don't trust myself. My association's not good. So the fact is, even if we're alone, we're associating with a devotee. It's just we're associating with ourselves. And sometimes our own association is not the best association. It doesn't help us. We're living in our minds. We're understanding the world subjectively. And there's no other influence around us than our own. So it's like we're just, how should I say it? It's like imagine you had a mirror, you know, all around you, and it's just reflecting like 108 reflections of yourself. And so when you're alone, it's like whatever you are is just magnified. It's just reflected. So if you have prema, fine, you know, it's magnified prema. But if you have weaknesses and lack of faith and anarthas, and just being alone, it just magnifies them. You're just getting it all back in maybe greater degree. Once you have association of devotees, it gets diffused because of their consciousness. And when you're in association of devotees, you become better because you want to behave properly and because you're imbibing their consciousness. So association of devotees is absolutely necessary. I think we had a question from Shamanandini. Can Maya attack us with feelings of not being good enough? Definitely. Not being like others, comparison, not having enough talent. Totally. We gave a class about that yesterday. If you, I don't know if that class is up yet. We gave class in Turkey and they asked me to talk about this. That's a material way of thinking. I'm not good enough. That's a totally material way. Not good enough for who? I'm not good enough for Krishna. Well, Krishna has different standards than the neighbors do. Krishna has different standards than your husband. You may not be good enough for your husband, good enough for your father, good enough for your professor, good enough for the guy next door because he has a better car than you. But Krishna has different standards. So good enough for who? Not having enough talent or whatever it is, intelligence or whatever. Enough talent for who? For what? Enough intelligence for who? For what? It's like you want to become a devotee and Krishna says, take an IQ test. And your IQ comes out like 53. Forget this one. He's stupid. He can't be a devotee. Send him back on the street. Not like that. If you had Shamanandini, if you have a child and they said his IQ is only 89, it's not going to get any better. And he's like, okay, where's the dustbin? Let's throw him in. He's useless. Of course not. You love him just as much as if he were a genius, maybe even more. So don't think that Krishna judges you in the way others judge you. Krishna's feeling you. That's what Krishna's done. He's feeling your sincerity. He's feeling your effort. He's feeling that you're trying. If you want to say Krishna's judging you, I would say he's feeling you. Or if you really want to say, okay, use the word judge. Okay, he's judging you by your feeling towards him. Like, you're that smart that you're going to impress Krishna? He's way smarter. You're that talented that you're going to, do something that Krishna's going to go, oh my God, I've never seen anything that great before. I don't think so. What, are you going to impress Krishna by your cooking, by your singing, by your writing, by your artwork? No, I don't think so. Like some 5-year-old kids are going to impress Shakespeare with their poem? I don't think so. You have to understand Krishna doesn't see you the way all these other people see you. He sees your feeling. It's about relationship. Relationships are not based on IQ or talents or so forth. Relationships are based on relationships, how people, their affection for one another, isn't it? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted you to know that we have decided to do IQ tests for all my aspiring disciples. And anyone who is under 120, I will have to reject. We're also going to do a scan for talents. And those who have no developed skills and talents, we will also reject. You would think that's strange, right? You'd say, wait a minute. You can't do that. This is transcendental. So that's what you would say, Shamanandini. You can't reject someone because they're not smart. They just want to serve Krishna. They can offer a flower or a leaf. Sincerely, Krishna will accept it. That's true. So the answer to your question is yes, 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 yes. Maya will attack that way. But you can turn that Maya into Krishna conscious, because if you think I'm not good enough, then you pray to Krishna, please help me. Then you become empowered. Hook, line, and sinker. That's it. My brain has got a lot of mucus in it. It's not functioning on optimal levels today. Yeah, sometimes you can be your worst association. That is a sad truth. And I didn't want to say it that way, because that's a depressing thought. But It's true, but we can use that reality to make sure we get association. And the class that we gave on low self-esteem, which you gave yesterday, it was in Turkey. It's going to be on the channel soon. So Shamnadini, look for that. And Billy Lynn says, what if we're worried that the energetic consistency of the love we're sending him isn't good enough? What if we're worried? How can you worry? Because Krishna says, all you have to do is go out and get a tulsi leaf and offer it to me and I'll accept it. So how is that, not good enough? That is your own thinking. That is not good. Like if that's not good enough, then, nothing's good enough. Because that's like, well, not even tulsi. I don't have tulsi. Okay, water. Fruit, leaf, flower, water. Okay. Can you offer some water and devotion? Krishna will accept it. Yeah, but how do I know he accepts it? Maybe he doesn't like me. It's an endless loop. Don't go there. Just don't go there. Krishna doesn't go there, so don't go there. You offer with love and affection and devotion. What's that love? I don't have any love. Your sincerity. I don't have any sincerity. Yes, you do. The fact that you're there offering the water, there must be some sincerity. So don't denigrate yourself into nothingness, that you have nothing. It's not true. Appreciate what you have and know that Krishna accepts it. Everything else is Maya talking to you. That's it. Maya's telling you all these other things. Kids, you offered, I don't know if Krishna accepted it because I'm such a rotten this or that, and I have no sincerity and love. Why would he accept it? And don't go there. That's all Maya speaking. Like Krishna says, look at this. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Patra pushpam palam toyam. Patra, tulsi leaf. Patra pushpa, flower. Patra pushpam palam, fruit. Toyam, water, fruit, leaf or flower. Now, Krishna says, offer it with love, offer it with devotion, and I'll accept it. And then all the low self-esteem people think, I have no love, I have no devotion. Therefore, my life is ruined. He'll never accept anything. Where did Krishna say, but if you're a nonsense rascal, like some devotees think they are, I'm not going to accept it because you have no bhakti. It's not like that. Your sincerity is your devotion. You're trying. Krishna, please accept this. So Prabhupada said, okay, Billy Lynn, this is the answer. There's too much mucus up there. It's taking me too long to think right now. But I did get the right answer. It's coming. Let's have a drum roll. It's coming. It's coming. Your love is your sincerity. Your love is your effort. The fact that you're there doing it, that's your love. Because you could be doing something else right then and there other than offering Krishna that cup of water. And you could be out there in the world, moving and grooving, going out with the boys, making lots of money, going out to the pub. Right now, you're sitting on your knees saying, Krishna, this is for you. Would you please accept it? So Prabhupada said, your love and sincerity is manifested with that mood. Krishna, I brought this for you. This is the best I can do. I'm poor. I got some water for you. Please accept it. That's your sincerity, that you're asking Krishna to accept it. And Krishna says, I will accept it. So don't doubt that. And Maya will come in and say, yeah, you're a nonsense. He's not going to accept it from you. He'll accept it from her, but he won't accept it from you. That's Maya talking to you. Don't go there. Don't go there. Krishna doesn't say that. Krishna doesn't say, well, make an offering, and I'll check you out. And, maybe I'll accept it if I think you're okay. Now, Prabhupada said, you go to Krishna and say, Krishna, this is all I have for you. I beg you, please accept it. You come humbly. That's it. That's your sincerity. That's your love. Krishna will accept it, guaranteed, 100%. If you go down this endless cycle, but I don't even have that sincerity. I don't even care if he, you just go down this endless cycle where you're, committing spiritual suicide with the craziness of your mind. What can I say? All I can say is, that's Maya talking to you. That's not Krishna. And stop it. Sometimes you have to tell your mind and say, just shut up. I'm making this offering. Krishna will accept it. Just shut up and let me make the offering. Sometimes you have to do that. This whole class I gave about self-esteem, in the beginning, I was just showing all the things that Prabhupada has said and done, and our whole philosophy, that totally, it destroys just any concept that low self-esteem has any foundation anywhere in Krishna consciousness. It's antithetical to it. Because everywhere in Krishna consciousness is mercy, affection, forgiveness, love, compassion. That's how the Guru deals with us. That's how Mahaprabhu deals with us. That's how Krishna deals with us. We think, yeah, but I'm so this, I'm so that. Why would Krishna even like me? And I was joking in the class yesterday, I said, when the self-esteem gets really bad, then everybody thinks, yeah, I'll get to Vaikuntha and Krishna will finally find out what I'm like and he'll say, you got to get out of here. That doesn't happen, I'm sorry, So don't allow Maya to, drive you crazy. I don't know if I want to go back to Godhead. When I get to the gate, maybe they'll refuse me, and I'll be so embarrassed, and it will destroy me. So I'll just stay down here, life after life. Yeah. That would be unfortunate if someone actually felt like that. According to Cambridge Dictionary, this expression is used when you are surprised or pleased that someone believes something that was intended to deceive them. Hook, line, and sinker. Oh, he accepted it, hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, Maya comes in and you accept her words, hook, line, and sinker. Yeah. So, Billy Lynn, don't let your own challenges morph or cover Krishna's words and what he feels about you. And that's the Shamanandini also, and all of you who deal with this. In what way do we have to be independent? Do we always have to seek devotees' association? Right now, everything here is quarantined. And I think it's a test for devotees to be strong. Yeah, but you have virtual association. As long as you have virtual association, that's the best you can do, and that helps. Yeah. Don't worry whether Krishna loves you or accepts your offerings. Worry about something else, like how to go back to Godhead. But don't worry about that, because that's not an issue. Putting yourself down is Maya. Actually, one way of looking at Nadia is that you're not even putting yourself down. Maya is putting those words in your head, and you're believing her. So why don't you reframe it that way? When you put yourself down, think, that's Maya trying to discourage me, and I ain't gonna listen anymore. Why don't you write a song? I'm not gonna listen to Maya anymore. No, I'm not gonna listen to Maya anymore. Be like a gospel song. I'm not gonna listen to Maya anymore. I'm just gonna listen to Krishna. Whoa. Yeah, that's your new song, Nadia. Swallowed it, hook, line, and sinker. Yeah. I went for Maya, hook, line, and it's hard to say that. Hook, line, and sinker. I fell for Maya, hook, line, and sinker. The hook, where the fish gets caught. The line, and the sinker is the weight. That means, like the fish fell for the bait, thought it was food. It's actually a hook on the end. I'm not gonna listen to Maya anymore. No, no, I'm not gonna listen to Maya anymore. Oh, I'm not gonna listen to Maya anymore. I'm just gonna listen to Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. All right, Billy Lynn, you can play that on piano. You can send your piece to Nadia. She'll sing it, and then we'll play it. We'll play the recording on the show. So that's the name of the class today, Satyarupa. I'm not going to listen to Maya anymore. Okay? And you could put no, no, no after it if you want, for emphasis. Okay. My voice lasted more or less, and I didn't cough much. That's a good sign. I'm getting better. I have some secrets. Nadia, you got to find some black people to help sing. You know, this is gospel. Yo, I'm not gonna listen to Maya. Ooh, yeah. She'll do it. Nadia will pull it off. She's good. Well, you both can sing. Billy Joe's a singing teacher. Let's sing it together. We'll have to have a Zoom conference so you can sing it to us, right? Okay. So, Hare Krishna. I don't know what else I'm doing today. Should I tell you? Hold on. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Today is Japa, and that's in 2 hours and 20 minutes. If you'd like to join us, you're all welcome. And it's time to say goodbye for today. Lots of gospel singers there, yeah. Where? Oh, the U.S., yeah. South Africa also. I'm not going to listen to, well, okay, that's the message for today. The new song, the new hit song. I'm not going to listen to Maya anymore. Yeah. So, but anyway, the point is, when you have all these crazy thoughts taking you away from Krishna, then you don't think, oh, my crazy mind. Just think, no, that's Maya. She's infiltrated with her poison. She's attacking. I'm not going to listen. That's my counterattack. All right, shut up. Get out of here. I don't need you. Goodbye. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We'll see you later. All glories to Prabhupada.